Cool. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Living Electric. We've got a special guest today, Mryia from Driver Electric Columbus. First met her and her husband Todd back in 2018, I think. I was looking for some Drive Electric events because I knew I wanted an EV and was kind of looking to meet some local EV owners, and came to a meeting, and that's where our paths first crossed. And now I try to go to every meeting I can now, and I'm supporting the Drive Electric group. So definitely happy to have you on here, Mryia.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, we always love enthusiasts as well as our vehicle owners at our Drive Electric meetings. So,
Yeah. So what's your history with EVs? What kind of got you interested in those initially, and then we can run through like all the vehicles because you've had a decent amount at this point, right?
well, we just have the two. We've got a third one on order.
Right. It's
So,
that's more than a lot of people, I can tell you that.
yeah, yeah, we hear that quite a lot. So we first started, we had a hybrid electric vehicle first. And we were the first ones to order one. In 2009, we ordered a 2010 Ford Fusion hybrid from a Ford dealership here in town. We placed an order sight unseen for that vehicle, which has now become like the common theme for us, that we're never going to touch a vehicle before we own it.
Right.
But we picked that up, and we were the first ones here in town to have it. Ford actually got it to us a couple weeks early because that was the year that I think it was like Adam won American Idol, but they gave one away on the show, and they had a whole promotional. And so they wanted us to have ours out in neighborhoods, um, so that we could show it off and talk to people about, here's a hybrid vehicle, and here's, how people drive those. So we've been in touch with Clean Fuels Ohio ever since 2010, whenever we received that car. So then in 2017, AEP, one of our local power providers here, they ran a humongous like promotional where they would give $10,000 back as an instant rebate for Nissan Leafs. And we saw that in the newspaper on Wednesday. And on Saturday, we bought ourselves a brand new Nissan Leaf. So we've been
There you go.
driving fully electric since 2017. It's been a great commuter car. I mean, the Leaf has its limitations. If you're trying to travel a lot, it's not something I recommend to people. But if you're just looking for a good commuter, a nice solid entry level EV, at a good price point, it's a great, car for that. And then in 2019, we decided we wanted to expand, our electric fleet here at our house. And so we started looking around late 2018, early 2019 at what we wanted. And after a little bit of research, we realized that the Mustang Mach-E, which was my dream car, still probably is to some degree, was not going to be on market in time because our daughter's old car, she had a Mazda at the time, was just going to die. And we
Oh
needed to
no.
replace her car. So we were trying to pass her one of our old cars. And so we were like, gonna go for it. What are we gonna get? We needed something that had well over 200 miles of range, because I was making a trip every week to my grandparents' estate dealing with things, and they are 175 miles away, and there is next to no infrastructure in that section of the state.
Right.
So we decided on the Nero because it has an EPA listed 239 miles, but we were seeing across Europe, where it was already broadly available, that the vehicle was getting closer to 300 in good weather and far exceeding the 239, even in cooler weather. And so we were like, that's what we're going to get. You cannot get them in Ohio at the time. So we tried everything we could. We worked with local dealerships, and then we just decided, well, we're going to make this happen one way or the other, no matter what Kia corporate says. And so we started making calls. And on Good Friday, we got a call from a dealership in the DC area saying, hey, if you guys, make your way over to DC, we have a car waiting for you. And we were like, when? And they said Saturday. I was like, okay, so it might be time to tell you we're 425 miles away.
Surprise. Yeah.
Little tiny distance, nothing big. Could you hold it till Monday? And they said, sure, with a deposit. So we put a deposit down by phone, and we started route planning, and we decided to get a one-way rental car because we didn't want to have to split up for the way home.
Mm.
And so we went and picked up our Nero on Monday morning, which happened to be Earth Day that year. So we
Look at
bought a
that.
car on Earth Day and we made it home with our car. And it wasn't even listed on Kia's website as available yet. And there happened to be a different podcast from you guys with Tom and Alex who were talking about people starting to have the Neros at home. And they were like, there's even this couple from Ohio that picked up a Nero somewhere and they're already posting pictures of it back in Columbus. And so the first week we had our car, we did a little over 1,000 miles. Our very first test drive of it was the 425 miles home.
Wow.
And so that's been kind of our adventure story. And then last year, on the very opening day, within the first 5 minutes, my husband pressed the button during the video for the Ford F-150. And we've now got one of those, not just on reservation, but on order. So we'll be getting a Lariat with extended range battery and tow package and all the works. May 16th is our build week. So
Wow.
we're looking forward to that. So we're aimed at that very soon.
Wow, that's a lot sooner than I thought. Like I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people are getting like VINs for the Lightning, but that's great. Only a month and a half away.
We've had our VIN number for a couple weeks. And we got issued our build date a couple weeks ago. We know that one of the dealerships here in town will have theirs being built the week of the 11th of April. So we're hoping it comes in, pretty quick after that. We have no idea. So, but all the dealerships are receiving a mannequin, like a sample model. So everybody can look for those to start hitting dealerships probably late April or early May and go check them out everywhere. So
Nice. They're not selling those then? They're just kind of like show
they
vehicles?
have to hold on to them. They are required by Ford to hold them for 6 months.
Okay.
So
Wow.
Gotcha.
they can have them out on their lot. They can let people touch them. They can go for test drives, whatever, but they can't sell them for the first 6 months. So
Okay.
Wow.
I like how Ford's gone that route with a lot of their Lightning stuff, kind of like being a little bit more protective and keeping prices down, because I know it's just insane with the dealer markups and everything else. I know Brandon just dealt with a ton of that. So
they've been very, proactive of tracking down dealerships that are doing too big of markups and having some conversations with them and stuff. So it's interesting. There's still people that are going to pay markups happily,
right.
But we've been tracking down dealerships here in town, and so far, crossing my fingers, nobody has been reporting in too big of ones right in Columbus proper. We've got a couple suburban dealerships that have had some rumored markups, but we've just let people know where they can take their order instead. So that way they're not dealing with that. So.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, I dealt with that when I was car shopping with pretty much every EV except for the one we picked up, our Model 3. Everyone we test drove had a markup. Yeah. But
I'm always on top of tracking what the prices are. And I mean, if you see like a $500 markup, I usually won't steer people away from a dealership. But if they're dropping $5,000, I'm like, who doesn't have that? So, there's no reason for that. I mean, I know what the market is right now, and I know there's supply demand problems, but that's still that's not kosher. We're not going to play like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Nice. So when did you first get involved with Drive Electric Columbus? Was it around 2017 when you got the Leaf?
Yep. So we picked it up right after Earth Day. So we'd missed, all the big Earth Day events. But they had a couple little summer things that we unfortunately, we were not able to line up in our schedules to attend. But then National Drive Electric Week rolled around and we went to an event that they were hosting for, the Drive Electric groups that they were trying to kick off right then. And so we started becoming involved then. And then in 2018, whenever they had a change of some of their paid staff at Clean Fuels for the Drive Electric programming, they were looking for people in each city, that they had lined up to take over the roles of leading the groups on a volunteer basis. And so, I did not step up at first. I tried to pass it off to anybody and everybody else because I just didn't feel like I was qualified for that. And so whenever I seen nobody else was going to do it, I was like, somebody has to. We don't want to not have a group.
Right.
We need to be promoting these. And so I was like, okay, the old adage comes back that if you want something done, you've got to do it yourself. And so
Yep.
I stepped up, kind of in a big way, but
No,
it's been a fun
definitely in a
ride.
big way. Yeah, yeah. I can't for the listeners. I can't appreciate you and Todd enough. Like for everything you do for the group, it's been like
Yeah.
amazing and definitely like a model for what other local groups should look like, because it's
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
sense of community. A great like we always have great turnouts at events. Like even though EVs are still very new, always learn a lot. Like get a lot of good questions. It's been a great experience.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. We try really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we try to keep in touch with all of the other groups too, to either involve them in what we are doing, where we have contests and challenges. We've now taken a couple of our statewide, where we run programs like Driving on Sunshine. Not only have I tried to tie that into my work with a solar nonprofit, but I've also got Dayton is coming on board this year, and they're going to run their own Driving on Sunshine campaign. They're just doing theirs for a weekend, where we do ours as like a month-long thing. But they're going to sign up houses and have people go, on a solar tour and charge their EVs at each other's homes. So, we just keep trying to grow it and help everybody else come up with fun ideas too.
Right. Yeah.
We definitely appreciate that up here at Drive Electric Northeast Ohio. The influence is felt. And it's good because it seems like it seems like our group up here is growing, and like people are coming to more events. We're getting more vehicles, more participation. So I just want to thank you. And I've been to Drive Electric Columbus events too, and it's a blast. So
We had a pretty good time with them. I mean,
yeah.
we overlapped at the Mid Ohio Electric Cooperative event, that I remember you were there with your.
I did donuts in the parking lot.
Yeah. You didn't even realize how great a turn radius you had with the
right.
guys for at the time. And
That's all everybody was pointing their
donuts.
cameras. Yep. Everybody was pointing their cameras at me.
Yeah, even these guys that were standing in there and they were like, electric cars, ew, I don't want one of those. And then they were out there and they were all like, I think that has a better turn radius than the tractor.
I know.
So I was like, yep, we're always compared to either golf carts or now tractors, I guess. So.
Right.
Whatever works. It's funny.
So, Mryia, I actually have a question for you regarding like advocacy. So, prior to your Ford Fusion Hybrid, which I have to say, I actually do remember the advertisements they were running with American Idol. I do remember that. It's funny, it like unlocked my memory when you said that. Have you always been passionate about like sustainable energy and like, different forms of transportation, or is that something you kind of found yourself in?
Not so much the energy aspect of it, until more recently. Maybe just in general, knowing that you should leave behind things in better condition than you find them. And I think that applies as a whole to Earth as well. I don't have another planet to go to. So if I don't find ways to help take care of this one, I'm kind of out of luck. So I've always worked on that part of it, but not so much, And at the time we were looking at the hybrid as a way to save a little bit of money. We were getting into, that's 14 years ago. So our daughter was really intensely into ballet at the time. We were driving 6+ days a week. And our other vehicle was several years old and not very efficient. And it just made a fuel efficiency, side of that. So I've spent most of my adult life, pretty much all of my adult life until very recently, as a stay-at-home mom. And so, I would always be like, I'm just a mom, but I'm commuting 500, 800 miles a week, depending on what everybody's schedule was for stuff. So always having fuel efficiency in mind was very important.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of driving to do in a week.
Yeah. Like I said, very intensely into ballet. She went through pre-professional programs and,
Wow.
did some of the international tape competitions and everything else. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, we did a lot of driving.
Yeah, I can imagine. At the time, the Ford Fusion Hybrid was very efficient. I think it got, 500 miles on a full tank or something like that?
642, I think, was what we would
Wow.
usually clock in right around there. So
Dang.
it was like 42 miles to the gallon for city driving. So
Wow.
for a gas car, you couldn't beat that. And that's still what she's driving right now. Whenever we get the truck, we're going to move her into the Leaf, but that's still the vehicle she has today.
Yeah.
So
Hey, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear it's still running. I've
yeah.
heard those are very reliable vehicles, the Fusion
Yep, the
hybrids.
battery still works. She can still get, I mean, because it's just a hybrid and not a plug-in hybrid, there's not really, that notification that you're going to switch or anything else, but she still gets, a little bit of a boost. I think she's averaging like 36 miles to the gallon still with it, which,
Wow.
I mean, compared to things now isn't quite as efficient, but for a car that's, born in 2009, 10, that's pretty
Right.
darn efficient still for that
Yeah.
old of a vehicle.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's great.
Wanted to switch back to like events and stuff with Drive Electric. Is there I want to hear like what's the most interesting or like best reaction you've had to like chatting with somebody that's new to EVs versus like maybe like the worst reaction or like a negative reaction you've gotten, because I know we've gotten stuff on both ends of the spectrum.
So we as a group have worked a lot of events. I mean, we came in whenever Smart Columbus was at their highlight and just kicking off their programming. So we helped with the auto show and doing right seat drivers at the auto show in 2018, that would have been.
Okay.
So that was a really big year for it. They had, I think it was something like 16 vehicles there that we had out every 15 minutes for the 4 days of the show. So that was
wild.
like 12 hours a day. Every 15 minutes, we were out with pretty much all of the vehicles all of the time.
Wow.
So that was pretty intense. We had some interesting people back then, that they would range from, my favorite story is the guy who thought you had to have the car plugged in all the time. So it would work like a toaster, basically, in his opinion. So he thought you'd plug in like at your neighbor's house, and then you'd drive as far as the extension cord would reach. You would get out of the car, go unplug it, run the extension cord up the street to the next outlet, and then drive like that again. And I was like, I don't even know how to answer. That is not remotely how this works.
No.
Wow.
And he was sitting there explaining that to me and like 2 other people. And we're all just standing there. We're like, what are you? You cannot be serious. I'm like, how does your cell phone work, sir? And he was like, well, you charge it up overnight. I'm like, and that would be your car, but with wheels. I don't know where you're from with this. But my favorite people are always the ones that walk up and they're like, well, I need a car I can drive in the rain. Or I don't like having a dirty vehicle. And I'm like, you can totally get the car wet. I could probably get my car wetter than yours.
Right.
That's funny.
This isn't a thing at all. I've joked that I'm going to rig up a picture of one hanging on a big hanger and be like, dry clean only. To folks that come up and ask that. But, I have on occasion been sassy and been like, well, you just got to get yourself a big umbrella and run alongside the car. It just takes 2 people to coordinate. And they'll look at you like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you can drive in the rain. This is not a problem. But
That's funny.
most people come up with just, their normal everyday questions.
Right.
We have some angry people on occasion, the folks that talk about that we're dirtier than they are, or that, that I have money to burn. I don't need an EV to save me money. I'm like, well, good for you. For the rest of the population, maybe they don't. But, have a merry day and keep moving. So,
Right.
But we try to focus on all the positives all the time.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something we try to do too. We get all kinds of YouTube comments like that all the time, so we definitely empathize with you there.
I think that I probably benefit occasionally from, we have, most of the groups have a lot of guys at the table, and whenever they walk up, I'm pretty much at all of our events. Yeah. So I'm one of the first faces they see. I think that's a lot less hostile whenever I'm standing there usually than some of the groups have faced off with. It's probably harder to yell at me. Number one, I'll yell back, and number 2, I just feel like they should be. So I'm like, oh, go ahead, I dare you. Mom's gonna come out. You're not gonna like it.
Wow. Yeah, it's thinking of like all the Northeast Ohio events I've been to, I don't think we've had anybody come in like heated or like Yeah, I mean, not that I've experienced
That's
yet. I mean,
good. Yeah.
I've had my fair share of conversations, with like misconceptions and just misunderstanding, but I've never had
We
like.
could get you to some rural Ohio events. We'll change that angle of it pretty quick for you. So, yeah, even some of our suburbs are very, very different on their population density and their attitudes toward it. So, and then we've
That's
worked
interesting.
events at places that people just didn't want to be interrupted with what they were doing, like the
Mm,
mall. They're very focused on what they're there for. So whenever we're an interruption, then their thought process is a lot different than those people that are going out for either a sustainability event or for a car event. You know, we don't usually hit those people at sustainability events or car events. We hit those people whenever we're out at everything else. Because
right.
I mean, I've been to, you name it, we've been to it. Pride Art Festival, Jazz and Ribs Fest, Creekside Festival over in Gahanna, and then clear down to Athens County and stuff. We've taken our vehicles to a lot of different events.
Mhm.
So some of those definitely have different audiences.
Yeah, we definitely run into that with YouTube. I've always found the best approach is thank you. Thank you for your question. Let's talk this through.
Right.
No need to yell. No need to yell.
Yeah, I like the delete button, so I probably would not be a good
Yeah, actually, I just
to
blocked my
moderate
first.
that.
I
You
just
gotta
blocked my first
block it.
person on YouTube, so I normally take the approach like thank you, but just some of the words he called me, I'm like, yeah, nope, not dealing with this today. So
Not worth the time
Yeah.
sometimes.
yeah. So, Mryia, I wanted to ask you, with Earth Day coming up in a few weeks, and being like an advocate for electric vehicles as well as like solar, could you give our listeners some advice on like if they're looking to get involved with like a local group, whether it's in Ohio or elsewhere?
Well, here in Ohio, we've got groups spread out all over the place. So you've got Drive Electric Cincinnati and Dayton, in that corner of the state. And then Athens EV Cruisers is one of our chapters. So if you're on the other corner of the south end of the state, here in Central Ohio, it's Drive Electric Columbus. And then we have Northwest and Northeast Ohio. So no matter where you are, there's probably a group within probably 80 miles of you, maybe a little bit closer, depending on what metro you're nearest to. So you can approach any of those groups. All of our groups are completely inclusive, no matter if you're an owner or if you're just looking at, maybe having an EV in a few years. Like Alex mentioned, that's how we met him, So we try to find ways to help, everybody either in their EV journey or just to be involved with the group. So they can approach any of our groups very easily. The Electric Vehicle Association is also out there. They're a good resource to reach out to if you're wanting to be involved with things, and you're not in Ohio where we have all the Drive Electric chapters.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, at least what I did initially, is just look for events. I know, like, I don't know, is National Drive Electric Week is in September, I believe, but there's events all over the country at that point. So if you're looking to go see a bunch of vehicles in person, that's probably the best week to do it. But there's other events throughout the year all over the
Yeah,
place.
Drive
So,
Electric Earth Day is any day of the month that we set it, for the month of April.
okay.
So it's kind of the full month of events now. And then National Drive Electric Week is, I think this year, the last week of September, first week of October. It just depends
Okay.
on, where that week falls.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's a ton of events for both of those, and there's websites out there for both of those. It's like driveelectricearthday.com for Earth Day, and then I think it's nationaldriveelectricweek.com for that one. But you can just search them on your favorite search engine and find either one of those. And then on those sites, they have a place where you can plug in your zip code, and it'll take you to your closest event. So I think there's something like 12 events going on here in Ohio alone. And then there's
Wow.
some that are online. So if you're wanting to, find out about things that maybe you're not comfortable going out in person yet, or there isn't something near you, there's a bunch of national events that are on the web, so you can attend something. We've ran a couple of those. We've had like game night that we ran for one of ours, and then we had a whole bunch of different speakers, from all across the country for one of our online events back in the days of the very, lockdown pandemic. So
Yep. Yeah, I do remember the game night. Wasn't that last year?
yeah, that was last year for Earth Day. So we did all kinds of things. We had trivia, we had like the photo things where we'd show you little pictures and you had to turn them into words and phrases, and we tried to have a little bit of everything for everybody. So I think we only had one winner of a prize from Ohio. The rest of our prizes went all over the country. So
Wow.
we've had a ton of people watch that since then, which always amazes me, that I'm like, I always joke that either I'm very entertaining or I'm a train wreck and you just can't look away. I don't know that I care which it is, because people tend to stick with whatever we're doing. So I'm like, that's important.
I think that's an important characteristic to have as a game show host,
Yeah.
I think
for anything we're doing meeting wise too, because I'm like, once people come in, they stick with our meetings. Somebody was like, why do you think that is? And I'm like, well, let's be honest here. There's only one of two things. Either it's entertaining or it's a train wreck. So
that's funny. That's right. I think I completely screwed up one of the game nights when I hopped on one of the calls, because I hopped on late and I didn't realize it was like a silent game where it was like everybody wrote down their answer and we like reviewed at the end. So I hopped on in the middle of one of the questions and I was like gung-ho ready to go on this on like one of the questions, and I like unmute my mic and like yell the answer out loud. Didn't realize we're not supposed to be doing that. So so Mryia had to keep me in check there and remind me what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we just recap the rules. We've had people do that. I think every time we've had game nights, we've done trivia 3 times, I think now, and we've just not found a really good way to have people ring in. Somebody said that you could do like Kahoot and have people play games, but we have some older users, and getting back to the inclusive part of it, they struggle with technology as a whole. So having them go into an unfamiliar, user setting and then trying to play something with us, I felt like it's not necessarily very fair that they wouldn't be able to participate to the same level. So we just try to keep everything in Zoom that we can.
Definitely.
So are you guys doing another game night this month? Or I guess Earth Day 2022?
No, so I have signed myself up between work with the solar stuff and Drive Electric stuff. I am attending, I think, 6 Earth Day events now, spread all across the state. So I have not tried to take on anything virtual. Though my company does have a movie viewing for the Electrified movie, and that'll be a public interface event. So if anybody's wanting to see the Electrified documentary thing that they ran a couple years ago, they're also going to have some speakers tied to that, like a whole panel discussion. So if anybody's wanting to see that, that's an option, that you can tune in. There will be information up on Plug-in America's National Drive Electric Earth Day. I always want to spit out the wrong letters and words there. They're both ran by the same organization. So twice a year I get to deal with, all those same folks whenever we're registering all the events. So in my head, they're just one big Drive Electric event.
Right. That's funny.
So just to jump back, it's called the Electrified movie? I've never heard of that before.
I'm not going to go pull it up. I started to Google search it. It's called Electrified. I don't think it has movie in the title. I think it's just Electrified.
Okay.
It's like a 40-minute documentary that was taped in 2019, I believe, about where electrification was right then. And so Solar United Neighbors is going to be hosting a viewing of that. They've done a few of these different movie type theme nights and stuff. So they're going to be doing that one. I don't know the date of it off the top of my head, but I know that we were talking about registering it as a, Drive Electric Earth Day event, just so that people could find it easier. And so there's no reason not to tie those 2 events together,
right?
Since it's an electric vehicle movie and, open to anybody who wants to watch it. So
definitely.
Wow. I
feel like I'm slacking. If we get that link, we'll throw it in the show notes here if anybody else wants to join. So
yeah. I can look it up and see if they've got it posted yet and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
I know I will definitely be joining because I've never seen that before. So it'll be good to see.
I was going to say, as part of Drive Electric Columbus, I've seen you've get to go to a lot of cool events, but outside of hosting them. You've gone to CES a few times, a couple other car shows. What's been kind of the best experience at a non-hosted event, I guess?
Well, CES is a ton of fun. So that's the Consumer Electronics Show. It's held in Vegas. The last time we went in person was 2020. I think that there was something like, I don't know, 300,000 people there. So it's
It's a
huge.
lot.
It's so much walking. I think we took in about a third of the show total, and we were there the full time and just on the move, 8 to 12 hours a day, and you still just
Wow.
cannot catch everything. So it's really intense. It's a ton of fun. You have to have industry connections to make it into there. We just used the club for that, just because if we're running it, we might as well enjoy some benefits from it. So
Yeah.
Right.
that was the first credentialed event that we made it into with the group. And then this year
Okay.
we took in a couple different auto shows. Chicago's really great if you're just, anybody can attend it. And then we went to the industry and media days of Motorbella, which was this year's Detroit Auto Show equivalent, because they were still holding it outdoors. So we got to ride around in the Lightning and touch a bunch of different vehicles and stuff ahead of release. Bollinger was there, which, I mean, they're not a vehicle company anymore. We got to see Byton at CES. Now they're not a company anymore. So it's been interesting. You can't get attached to anything you're seeing at those shows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the first big thing you have to learn with that. You may not ever see it again.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. I'm sad about Biden, to be honest. Well, Byton. Not Biden, but Byton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sad that fell through, because it looked very promising, like, with the big screen and like the way that they were developing it.
And I mean,
kind of
some
sad.
of what happened to them financially was, COVID caused. And there were so many cars that the year 2020, so CES was in January. We always joke that it was probably their first big super spreader event. Nobody realized it, because everybody came home. We all thought it was the con crud that we had, and instead now we all have to wonder, oh, was I an early adopter of COVID? So, but we came home and we're looking at all these different cars, and they were all aimed at, I don't know, one of the European shows, one of the big European shows. And so they had all their displays set up, and all the car manufacturers were shipping their cars, and then COVID shut it down. And it just, that kind of expense, having their prototype vehicles tied up for months, in these displays where they couldn't get them released. They couldn't go get them, even if they could get them released. It really did in a bunch of the little tiny startups that were trying to make a go of it. It was just so sad to see happening to them. And there's nothing you can do. You're just watching from the outside on all of that.
Right. Is there a vehicle you're most excited about now, or a company you're most excited about right now, since you're kind of in the thick of it with EVs?
I mean, all the pickup trucks, of course.
Right.
I having come from a very rural area of Ohio, those pickup trucks are a game changer. We've been watching them, aim at us for years now. It feels like forever, between Rivian and the Ford F-150. I mean, back 2019, they did the whole pickup truck towing a train kind of, stuff. So it's been fun to watch, but it's time that we actually get those trucks on market, not just look at them at a distance.
Right.
So the pickup trucks are a big one for me, but some of the different manufacturers that are coming out with them, and just having models that are normal to market, are always, I think, good moves. The Blazer and the Equinox, and the Aria, even from Nissan, and watching them move over to CCS combo instead of CHAdeMO, and to having, instead of an air cooled battery, having a liquid cooled battery.
Right.
It's really good to see them making that transition.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why we're going to see a lot of success with like Rivian, the Volkswagen ID4 and the BMW iX, is because they are in a normal form factor. They're not anything that's like out of the ordinary anymore. They're normal vehicles. And I think, Rivian is selling like crazy. They're delivering thousands of them, which is great.
And it's so cool to be able to spot those on the road. I constantly play. Whenever I'm out in public, everybody always laughs at me, because like an EV will drive by and I shout out what it is. And at this point, it's like an involuntary reflex that I have.
Right.
So I always have to warn people, because, whenever we were over at Edison last year for National Drive Electric Week, whenever I was there talking to them ahead of time, a Model Y drove by, and without even missing a beat, mid-conversation, I just shouted out Model Y and then went right on with my sentence. And the poor guy is looking at me like, what just happened? And I'm like, I am so sorry. I play this game where I identify the cars, and I'm like, and I guess now you're playing too. So
That's funny.
that's just what we do with it. But it's fun to see different ones now that I can identify out there instead of just, before you drive along. And if I seen a Bolt and a Leaf for the day and, a Tesla or two, I was super excited. And now if I come home and I didn't see something different in the mix, I'm like, dang, I need to drive around more.
Right. I know.
Where are all the other cars?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Whenever I'm out on the road, I'm looking at things. We actually saw our first i4 here in Cleveland. That was pretty cool to see on the streets. Yeah, it's awesome. We saw an Ioniq 5 recently, an EV6. It's cool to see them. Like, finally, we're seeing them on the road.
Yeah, and we're about to have a third fast charger at the exit we live off of. So we're on the farthest west exit for Columbus. So whenever you're coming in on 70, we're, the Rome Hilliard exit, which is the first exit you're hitting coming in from like anywhere to the west of town. And it makes it the opposite as they're leaving town. We're the last stop you can hit. So we've got 3 different brands of fast chargers now at our exit. So Electrify America frequently gets all kinds of unique vehicles. I've found school buses there twice now, which is very exciting.
Really?
So whenever the school buses are there charging, I'm always like, gonna post a picture of you. And
well, it's a perfect location for
what
it.
I'm doing, or where I'm bound to. I go by all of the stations each time and I'll take pictures. I jump out and talk to people. I give them business cards and stickers, and I hit them up and I'm like, do you want to come to an event? How about we come to you and do an event? Where can we see the school bus as a group? Hi, EV6 driver, where are you from? And, Rivians. Oh, we don't have those in town yet. Where do you hail from? Can we get you to come out to you want to come to Earth Day? And people are all like, great. Who's this woman jumping out at us at the charging station? I figure it's good for them. Let them know that, somebody thinks you're super special, if nothing else. So.
Yeah, and at least you're showing up in an EV. So,
right.
yeah, it's not like you're showing up in like an old Camry or something like that,
No, I don't, unless my daughter's over visiting, we don't even have anything with gasoline in it in our house. All of our lawn equipment is electric. We've got 42 solar panels and a battery in the basement. So we usually, use our own power all day long for things. And then we have the 2 electric cars. So I can't even take my lawnmower and go meet them without taking something electric along. There's no chance that they're going to have me showing up in a Camry.
You're right.
That's a Toyota product. I extra wouldn't show up in it. But
yeah. Well, when you do get your Lightning, bring your lawnmower. You should just do that next time you see someone at a charger.
Just push it past the fast charger and see what people say.
It fits in the back of either of our cars. We know that because we got the lawnmower while we had the Leaf. So there we were with our Leaf, who it was maybe, not even a month old, and off we went to Lowe's and we're like, load up an electric lawnmower. And we went in on an exchange day that they were having. So we had to take our old gas mower and turn it in order to get a special price on the electric lawnmower. So there we were like, we're loading up gas in our electric car. Is it going to revolt against us here or something? But it didn't protest at all, which was good. So
that's funny. Yeah, that's cool. You've gone fully electric. When did you get your solar installed? Because I think it was right before I came out to do the video on it. I think it was
last year whenever we were part of your video for the solar, we were pretty new to it. We had ours installed. So we started exploring it a little bit before we got it, but we went through the co-op process, which, I wasn't attached to Solar United Neighbors at all back then, but we went through a co-op here in town that kicked off in late January of 2020. So we had co-op meetings, and then we were supposed to be having selection committee on March 18th, I think it was. So that got shut down and moved online. We were the very first co-op to have any online events in the whole country. So we went solar through that process, and due to some supply chain issues with our inverters and a couple other pieces of our equipment, we didn't have our installation complete until November. And even then, the solar installer loaned us one of the inverters until February, whenever our second inverter came in, and then they came out and exchanged them. So we were operational for a couple months on a borrowed inverter.
Wow.
But yeah, it made it really interesting. So, but we have two inverters, a backup interface, a 10 kilowatt hour battery, and then 42 panels with 18 of them south, 12 east, and 12 west. So we make pretty good sun all day. We've been making a little over a megawatt a month. So,
Dang.
Wow.
yeah.
I was just about to ask what your daily, man, I'm like, sorry, it's been a very long day. I was going to say daily creation. Is that a good way to say that?
We
Production, daily
I
production.
joke that, instead of saying that we make power from sunshine, my brain just is like, we make sunshine. And then I have to like, wait a minute, let's back that up. I am not making sunshine. I am, my roof is now properly absorbing it in a positive way instead of just, taking on that heat and reflecting things back off. So, but I mean, it varies seasonally on how much we make, but like February, we owed the power company $18 for February. And that was with snow on the panels for a couple days. And, we made a couple big trips because we went to Chicago and back. So we were charging pretty intensely, both ends of that to prepare and then to charge up on return. We had a couple other days that we went different places. So, even with high power consumption that month, we made pretty decent, power. So we have a very power intense house. Most houses do not need 42 panels,
Right.
But with 2 electric cars, electric lawn equipment, my husband is collector of all things computer. So yeah, we have a very high power draw here, but we'll probably be even up this month. So we'll probably be owed money by the power company from now till November. So we usually, last year, that's what we've seen. Like March, we had our first break even month and we were even up until November. So like November, December, January, we owe a tiny bill. And then February on, we start seeing it kind of try to balance out, if not that we're completely owed money by AEP. So,
wow.
Just a nice feeling.
Yeah,
Definitely.
That is a nice feeling. And just so for my out of my curiosity, as well as like our listeners, can you go into more detail of how the co-op works? Like if somebody was interested in doing that to get solar?
Yeah. So Solar 9 Neighbors runs these co-ops, and there's sort of like a buying club. There's no fees to join, but because we're taking one installer, 50 to 200 houses all at once that are interested in going solar, then they are able to get a better price on that. And then in our free time around running co-ops, we work on a lot of policy things. So, I think before you guys started recording, I was talking about the fact that I've been working on helping to promote and advocate for and raise awareness of the HOA bill here in Ohio so that people have better access, even within planned communities, to being allowed to go solar. Because there's no consistent rules right now. And we're not looking to say, everybody has to be allowed to go solar, but we would like everybody to be able to option into it. If they're wanting to buy it and it's on their own roof, why can't they be allowed to do that? So we're just trying to advocate for good policy. In some of our states, we have net metering battles. Net metering is where the power company is buying the power back. Here in Ohio, we're very fortunate that we have some pretty good rules into play for that. But, like Indiana and Florida, not so hot on those right now. Arizona and California. Well, Arizona is one of our states. California is not, but California has a big net metering battle about to happen. Arizona lost theirs a couple years ago. So, but we work on that way. So whenever you join a co-op, though, like Cuyahoga County has one coming up in April, Columbus has one coming up late in the summer. Right now we're in the Miami Valley here in Ohio. So you would just say that you're interested. You'd visit our website, register. We have like classes where we talk about what solar is, what the different parts of a panel are, how the different parts of the system play well together, what the different terms are so that people understand, what the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour is, because to some folks, those are all the same thing. We get so used to hearing those with cars that we take for granted that people don't understand that outside of those conversations.
Right.
But then after the class, if you want to sign up, you can. And if you don't want to, you can move on your merry way. We're not going to track you down or anything. We have a selection committee where everybody that's in the co-op gets to come and vote for which installer they like the best. We collect bids from the installers. Usually we see them offer 10 to 20% as a discount. I know after we had our installation, we figured it up, and the going rate of it compared to what we paid was about a 12% difference, which, whenever you're looking at, in our case, a $40,000 system, 12% is a significant chunk of change. And then right now, still for the federal, there's a 26% tax credit. So you get back 26%, which, I mean, with the EVs, we're all used to seeing that 7,500, 26% of some of these systems is a big chunk too. Mm-hmm. So, but we just try to help promote awareness of all those things and help, people have an understanding of it. It's just a little bit simpler than collecting, 3 or 4 bids yourself and trying to compare those, because all the companies will tell you different things that you need, and
right.
They might be right. They might not be, some of them will try to sell you things that you can't use, but we'd like to think that they aren't like that, but we watch out for people to make sure that it isn't like that. And we watch out for all people with that. We have a very inclusive and diverse group of associates that work on our programs to make sure that nobody's being taken advantage of, no matter what community they reside in. So our rural neighbors get the same rates as our, neighborhoods of opportunity, and our, neighborhoods that might be more affluent and able to afford them even without a co-op. So.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, if I wasn't moving, I would totally jump in on that right now, because we've been wanting solar on our house. But yeah, regarding, you mentioned in Cuyahoga County, there's a co-op coming up next month. Is that what you said? Yeah. Is that something that, like, even if I just wanted to sit in and learn about it, could I do that, or do I have to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have people attend that aren't even from the correct state, just because it lines up with their schedule. Wow. So if you go to the solarunitedneighbors.org website, you'll see, all the different states that we work in. And even if you're not going solar, you can, write into us, and we will look over bids with you that you've collected from somebody else, and help you decide which one really is the best to offer. You can attend we have these info sessions and Solar 101, we call them, and we'll just go over all the different parts and pieces of it. So, and you might be catching some of our, associates, like right now I'm in training to get my NABCEP. I don't know what that stands for. It's NABCEP. It's like a solar training program. So I'll have, an associate with that. But, other people have finished that. I come from a very mainstream background. I finished high school. I did a little bit of college, burned out and didn't even finish that. So you're going to hit some of the people that have, multiple master's degrees that are going to talk to you about it. And then you're going to hit other folks like me that are just like, here's solar and I'm excited. Let's talk about it together, So, but it just depends on, what you absorb well. For our really technical people, they probably want one of those folks talking to them that can talk it into the ground. And for our less technical people, it might help them if I'm comparing kilowatts to, your hose of water and kilowatt hours to your pool you're filling, so it's just how you absorb things. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that next month, because even with us moving out west, we definitely do want to get solar. So
12 states and then the District of Columbia that we work in. So depending on where you're working or living, we might even be there.
Well,
so,
is Oregon one?
No, we do not. Well,
darn.
We have a whole section about going solar outside of a co-op. So there's stuff on the website for everybody.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. That's great. Well, I will definitely check that out.
Awesome. Any more questions, or do you want to wrap up here?
I didn't even realize we're at 55 minutes already.
We've been rolling.
You're going to have to edit so much.
We generally when we have a guest, it makes our editing a lot easier, because when we're going back and forth talking about stuff, it's a lot to like cut out because we'll get sidetracked. But this has been great. So
we're always focused. I don't know what you're
I kind of thought you guys were gonna like come at me. I'm not gonna lie, with a whole bunch of questions about all the different legislation pieces and everything else that we have in play right now. I was like, oh boy, I better brush up on everything.
No, the nice thing with us recording at night is that Alex and I are both exhausted after work, so it's like kind of nice, laid back, like nice conversation.
I
actually think we should start having like
not take a morning or early afternoon slot. I don't need fresh people.
Right.
Everybody on my speed. So, and we were watching the podcast the other day where you guys were talking about the Allen wrenches.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Both Todd and I looked at each other simultaneously, and I was like, oh, thank goodness he didn't hit some sort of weird security torque, because he would have never figured out what it needed to get into there. So it could have been worse than an Allen wrench.
Right. Yeah, I think we're going to get some branded Allen wrenches for our merch store when it goes live. Just living electric Allen wrenches. So if you want one, we'll ship you one.
Best used as a
from like IKEA, and then 3D print something and put it together yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Anytime we can't afford something for the club to give away, then I'm always like, what can I craft?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Adds more character.
That stuff too. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, one of our big giveaways one time was these hang tags that on one side talked about I'm necessity charging, and then on the other side said, I'm convenience charging. And we gave those away, and every one of those were handmade. So we would print them out. I had this giant hole punch that punched out like a 3-inch hole. And then we would laminate them, and then I would have to like sit there and hand trim so that it didn't, go across that hole from before. So, every one of those was a labor of love, but people just, adored them whenever we were giving them away. But yeah. So you never know what's going to turn up.
Yeah, I say, Alex, let's do it. Let's talk tonight. But Mryia, I think I actually had all my questions answered. I really wanted to talk about more solar and like your experience with oh my gosh, I cannot speak tonight. Advocacy, because with Earth Day coming up, I think it's really important to readdress that. If you are interested in talking about electric vehicles or learning about it, get involved. Just find a group and meet people and just get involved. Yeah.
And even after Earth Day, if you miss Earth Day, or if you're really busy, catch up with some of the groups afterwards. We're going to have things going on. I mean, May is going to be a big month for us. We're going to be at the State House one day with all the electric cars we can scrape together. And we're going to have a legislator education session. So we're going to be out there giving them ride and drives and talking to them about, what is different and what policies they should be working on for us. Throughout the summer, we tend to hit, I think all the groups tend to hit as many of the festivals and farmers markets and everything as we can, just so that we can get out there in front of people and show them that these are everyday vehicles. I know that as soon as our truck arrives, we've already got like the groups are lining them up for us. They're like, hey, Cincinnati, we'd like to see you down here. Hey, we're going to do, will your truck be here in time? The Dragons game for Dayton. And I was like, we hope so. That's June. Optimistically speaking, build week shouldn't be that long, but we'll have to wait and see, and everybody's like, I'm like, well, we're just going to get to go on a tour of Ohio in our truck. It's fine with us. We already do that.
Love it.
The Nero has went everywhere. So
start charging an attendance fee.
$1 to ride.
Yep.
Half the events I went to, we end up paying for things with them. So like whenever we've been invited out to, Bucyrus is a good example. I was their first charge. They had me there, to do their ribbon cutting and everything else. And I paid for my charge.
Of course.
Even like some of the chargers for free.
Get a gift card or anything.
I'm like, I didn't even need that charge to get home, but I hooked up just so that they could all get pictures of it. It cost me like $3 in charges. And I'm like, well, that's just part of advocacy, I guess.
Yep. It's a tax write-off.
Clear up here. I've never tried for that. I might have to start.
Keep your receipts. No.
My receipts.
Yep.
I'll just start tying everything for work in and be like, oh, I promise I was out for solar stuff.
Right.
But I feel bad for that though, because the gas mileage is what they want to claim on that. And I'm like, it does not cost me that much to drive electric to here, especially whenever my solar produced my power to get here and back.
Right.
Right.
You're just paying for something for me. I'm not sure what yet, but
Yeah.
That's funny. Cool. So we'll wrap up here. Where can everybody find you, or I guess Drive Electric Columbus, if they want to come to an event or see what you're up to?
driveelectriccolumbus.com. We'll keep it nice and simple. We have info@driveelectriccolumbus.com as our email address. So everybody can write in on there, and get a hold of whoever they're looking for. Our website has a ton of information from upcoming events, links for all the legislation that we know about that's in play in Ohio. So you'll find 277 and 307, which are both Senate bills. One of those is, I think, slowing down and probably not so much in motion, and the other one is gearing up to really be in motion. So 307 is the Accelerating Ohio's Auto Industry Bill, and there will be a big promotional going on about that. So make sure you check out that section. We have resource pages which show, apartments in our area that have charging. We have, all the links to all of our upcoming events, be it meetings or Earth Day or anything that we, can put on there. So you can pretty much find it all at driveelectriccolumbus.com.
Perfect. We'll have that link below. And thanks so much for being on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.